from the narrator's point of view. While other countries are 2 to 3 years into what we now call the First World War, America is in an ignorant state. Ignorant in the sense that it's an idea, it's something to even be entertained by, it's something to be interested in, but it's a distant thing that has no real relevance to the real life that we live on a day-to-day basis. So there's a real ignorance that war is real, but only in some philosophical sense. In other words, it's just a word to the majority of Americans. And then ignorance is often twin brother is arrogance. Well, not only is war not real, but if it were ever to become real, another way I can comfort myself and sleep at night is to just believe, despite any evidence, that Americans are superior horsemen, drivers, technologically better shots, tougher, whatever the lie is, that for some reason Americans are just superior. So ignorance and arrogance team up to make a pretty nasty stew, and then you start to add in other ingredients like obstinacy or a failure to learn from history, which of course takes us back to the very first words of the novel, where the narrator remembers life in the Salinas Valley, only to contrast it with most people who forget. And so virtue and vice in this novel are very much connected to remembering and forgetting. And so if you're ignorant and you're arrogant, and when that butts up against real life that's happened, well, a convenient thing to do is to forget and to not learn from history. Then you put all those into the stew, and on top of that, you put maybe laziness, or a kinder way to put it, maybe a lack of preparedness, and that is training 2 nights a month. Of course, you're not going to be this sterling military outfit if you're only training 2 days a week. You can't beat the country of Mexico, nor can you beat the Germans on such minimal training, which is really probably just a product of the arrogance. And so that mythical, that fictional way of living is exploded when your neighbor comes back dead, when your little sister's love interest is blown to bits in the First World War. Now, war goes from a concept to a reality, and of course that drives people to fear. And what does fear produce? Fear produces misinformation, and you don't know what's a reliable source, what news outlet, what soldier back home from the war. My cousin's cousin said this. You don't know who to believe, and so now the ignorance is not so much out of arrogance, but the ignorance is out of fear. And so whether ignorance is out of arrogance or fear, neither of those seem to be pretty good outcomes. Who is making a pretty good outcome? Well, locally here in our story, Cal and Will. So again, the moral, the ethical question. Is it really right to be profiting 7.5 cents from farmers doing the actual work and being paid by British GIs or wounded British soldiers not home from the war, but sent to the U.S. to buy up all of the necessities to fight the Germans? Is it really moral of Cal and Will to be making money that way? Now, of course, Will is using the money for what we would call a good moral purpose, to always get his family out of fixes. And of course, he's employing people, and it seems like he treats his employees well. Cal, of course, has the moral high ground because he wants to educate his brother, pay back his father, do both of those things at once. And yet, the moral question, once again, when the entire world is suffering in a world war, is that the real time to start your capitalist venture? And of course, when your arrogance, when that pin has pricked the balloon of your arrogance and you are turned to fear, then of course the songs you sing will turn from this triumphalist procession to a more humble, to a more fearful bit of lyrics. So you still go through with the facade, and you march and you go off to war. But Steinbeck wisely says the soldiers, even though they're boys, they can't make eye contact with their mother. So both mother and son, I think what he's trying to say, is they know that this is all just a ruse. They know this is a little bit too optimistic, too triumphalistic, and we all know that this is getting into a stew that we never want to get in the first place. And so this chapter ends, and it makes me think of a great Mike Tyson quote, that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that's how the contrast from the beginning of the chapter, that's how this chapter ends. We are a tough young man, but boy, we are not wise. We haven't learned anything. And so it's great to have a plan, but when you get smacked in the mouth, then all your plans go out the window. And that's America entering the First World War.